Hey, you guys. Hope you're having a good evening. So, tonight I wanted to talk about something that I went through many years ago that was a really difficult time. Um, and I know a lot of moms have this issue, and it's not talked about enough. And I think that, we need to get the discussion going. So, this month, August, is National Breastfeeding Month. And so I'm not doing a video on the many benefits of breastfeeding, although there are many, and I'm sure you know many of them, and that would be a good topic for a video. But tonight I want to talk about my very difficult time with breastfeeding and what my experience was. And, at the time I felt so alone. And now, after the years have gone past, and I so many more women have difficulty with breastfeeding than we realize. And so I've spoken to so many and heard their stories. And, even back when I was going through it, I thought someday I'm going to tell this story because it was just so crazy. First of all, being such a wellness advocate, even back then, I wasn't anything like I am now, but I was still, very health-minded, and I knew the benefits, and I was just, adamant about breastfeeding. So my baby, Joey, who just turned 16 a couple weeks ago, would get all those great, nutrients and benefits, and all the immune boosting benefits. And not to mention, it would be easier. I didn't even want to have the hassle of, formula and having to pay for it. And I just thought, easy. So I was lucky enough that I had, very easy pregnancy and very tough birth, though. That's another story. So now I'm just kind of raw and real here. I'm off the cuff, but I don't want to forget anything. So I want to check out my notes and stuff. And if you, have any comments, please pop them in the or any questions or comments, pop them in, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and I want to hear your story too. So first of all, he latched on, and it was fine, and I was in the hospital, and the nurse was like, "Oh, he's great. You're doing great." Well, so he's born on a Friday. By Sunday night, he was screaming bloody murder. By Monday, he was miserable. We'd come back from the hospital on Sunday, and by Monday morning, he was just, something was wrong. So of course we went to the pediatrician, and she weighed him, and she's like, if he had lost any more weight, I would be putting him in the hospital on an IV. You're starving your son to death. And I had no idea. I was literally starving him, and I had no idea, because everything was going well, from what I thought. And so first of all, I had no idea that I was starving him. And second of all, she made me feel like I was like this horrible mom, like, he's lost too much weight and you're starving him. I'm like, oh my God. So, and also I had postpartum issues. And that's another thing that, as a whole, so many women have it, and it's not talked about enough. I think it's talked about a lot more, but still not enough. And a lot of women, have postpartum depression, some postpartum anxiety, and it comes in different forms. And so that, also was another one of my issues. Was I was not getting enough sleep, and I was super, super irritable, and just, I was just out of it. And then the breastfeeding also hurt so much I couldn't even take it. It was just miserable. So what happened was, I had to supplement. And she's like, if you want to give him any breast milk, she recommended a lactation consultant, and she's like, you're going to have to pump to get it going. And of course I was like a crazed new mom. Yes, I'm going to give him breast milk. And so we hired a pricey lactation consultant, and it was a freaking circus trying to feed him. So I had to weigh him, then nurse him, then weigh him again to see. And it was like 0.00 of an ounce to begin with. Then I had to mix the bottle and feed him formula. And then I had to pump. It was like this whole circus. And so by the time I was finished with that whole ordeal, it was almost time to feed him again. Oh my God. And, he had colic, And so he wasn't sleeping much and I wasn't sleeping, and it was just crazy. And you know, so many women that I've talked to over the years, they had a very similar experience, but I felt so alone. And, you know, I didn't have any friends that had babies at the time. I had a few friends that had, you know, kids when we were young, like in our early 20s. And so their, you know, their kids were not babies anymore. They were at a different stage. And then I had some friends that just didn't even have any kids yet. And my brothers and sisters, you know, had kids long before, I mean, you know, but way before I had kids, because I'm the fourth of and they were all like teenagers when I was born. So like I was an aunt, you know, but before I was even in grade school. So so anyway, my point is I didn't have anybody to kind of relate to, and I had been working at CBS at the time. So I went from having this great career with, you know, interaction with people I liked and a job I really loved, with interaction with adult people, and to just me and this little infant. And while he was adorable, and I, you know, and I bonded to him, I didn't have an issue bonding with him, but I had this fear, you know, and I didn't have those thoughts, you know, that postpartum depression have, like where I had like visions of hurting him, but I had these crazy visions of him getting hurt. Like I remember like looking at knives in the kitchen, and I thought, oh God, what if the knife like falls and comes and stabs him? Or what if something happens and there's an earthquake and he falls and he cracks his head open? I mean, like really, hey, how are you? Hey, Valerie, I'm so glad you're joining us. So, I mean, I felt like I literally felt a little bit insane, you know? And what didn't help was not sleeping. And I was super irritable. I mean, I'll be the first to admit I was a bitch on wheels, because I was super worried about not giving him the right nutrients and him, you know, not getting what he needed. And then I wasn't sleeping. But I needed TLC, you know, and I didn't feel like I was getting it. You know, the people around me were kind of making me feel like, well, what's wrong with you? You know, and it's like, well, what's wrong with me is, I had just had an episiotomy and my body is really fucked up and I can't even sit down and my boobs hurt so much because this, you know, this baby is, I mean, literally my boobs hurt for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And I remember my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, she had 6 kids, and she, after a few weeks had come by, she came for a week and stayed with me and helped me. She was my saving grace. I mean, I thank God for her. I still think, in fact, I saw her at a wedding last week, and I said, I thanked her again. I said, you really saved me, because she was the one who made me feel that I, A, wasn't crazy, and B, wasn't a crazy, irritable bitch. It was just super, super difficult. And that, yeah. And she said, the breastfeeding will hurt for 6 weeks. And I'm like, really? And she was right. It was like that 6-week mark, it stopped hurting. But I didn't really like it. It still didn't hurt anymore, but it still felt weird. And one of the reasons I want to do this video is because this is something that's just, hey, Tamara, this is something that's just not talked about. I mean, hey, Shady, I went to the like that lactation breastfeeding class at the hospital, and she's talking about all this stuff. She briefly kind of glossed over, well, you know, if your milk doesn't come in, blah, 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 but she like glossed over it. And I thought, I just thought, well, what do you do? And so I remember after class, I went up to her and I asked, and she looked at my boobs. She's like, oh, you're fine, you'll be fine. And lo and behold, I wasn't. And if she had just maybe given us, you know, a little guidance, something, maybe an idea, I wouldn't have maybe flipped out so much. But I mean, I was, you know, and what's that lactation? Now I can't think of it. That whole lactation, like, I can't think of the name now. But I mean, but this was 2002. So there wasn't, I mean, of course there was the internet, but not like it is now, you know. But I Googled for all this help, and you know, at the time, of course, there was no Facebook. If there was, I probably would have been, you know, in some Facebook group with other moms. But I did feel so alone. And I felt so inadequate, you know. I felt so like I'm the only one going through this, and my boobs are faulty and I can't produce milk. But I hung in there, and I did that whole circus, you know, several times a day of weighing him, feeding him, weighing him, and all this. I got up to like 12 ounces a day after, I think, 6 months. So he got some breast milk, you know, but it just, it never got easy, you know? And the other thing was, I mean, he didn't sleep. I mean, and then he'd wake up in the middle of the night for like 3 hours straight, not going to sleep. We'd drive him around. I remember driving along the 101 freeway, and he'd be in the back seat, la la la, la, like not falling asleep. So I was so sleep deprived. I just thought I was going to go insane. And I remember distinctly, I mean, I really felt a little crazy. I remember distinctly. Oh, and then also the other thing was my mom, you know, she had really bad rheumatoid arthritis. So she was close to bedridden. So, I mean, I know she probably would have been there for me, but she, you know, she couldn't at the time. And so that was unfortunate. But I remember at the time I was watching this movie and starring Susan Sarandon. I think it was the Banger Sisters with Goldie Hawn, who I love, both those women. But I remember like I was so delirious, and I remember thinking, you know, Susan Sarandon, she has kids, and she's out in the world. Hey Cheryl, she's out in the world, you know, she's working and doing stuff. So eventually I'll be able to leave the house and have a life, right? I literally felt like, oh my God, am I ever going to have a normal life again? And I was recently, I hope it's okay to say this, I saw my niece at that wedding last week, and she was saying that she was having similar, you know, postpartum issues, and so hard, and feeling like she'll never leave the house either. And her mom is my sister-in-law, who I was telling you about. So luckily she had a lot of, you know, support from her. But we were talking about how you just feel so insane. And that's another reason I wanted to talk about this tonight, is because, you know, she's doing better. She had her beautiful baby 6 months ago. It was right around my birthday. But it just made me think, this is going on. And even in this day and age, where, you know, it's more talked about than it was a decade ago, it's still, people are still feeling alone and crazy about it, you know? So I just hope that if people can realize that if, you know, if you are going through it, or if you're, hi, Alyssa. I'm so glad. Thank you. I hope this story helps some people. But I feel like, you know, if you're going through it, or, you know, anybody who eventually watches this video, if you're going through it, or if you have a daughter that's gone through it, it is like a secret society. It is. But it's a secret society with so many of us who belong, you know, but it's not talked about. But, you know, I just hope that we can kind of get the conversation going, so it's not so taboo, you know, and be there for, you know, our daughters, our daughter-in-laws, and our sisters, and our wives, you know, and our girlfriends. And my thing is, for me, I didn't get enough TLC, you know, I'm not going to name names or whatever, but I just did not feel any support. And that was really the hardest part. I felt so alone, and so like, I'm just a bad mom and I can't handle it. And yeah, I was irritable, but it's like, who's not going to be irritable when they're not sleeping at all? I mean, I tell you, I feel like I didn't really sleep much for almost the first year. He just was not a good sleeper. Or he'd start being a good sleeper for like a few weeks or a month or something. And then, so I'd be like, okay, we're all good. Because I kept thinking, oh, I'm going to do the Ferber thing. Maybe that'll work. But I was kind of scared to do it. Plus, he was a super fun baby, but he was high energy and, like I said, colicky and super difficult. And he would never sleep. And when he napped, he'd nap for only half an hour. And when he did get sleep, it took us forever to even get him to sleep. Like, I'd have to walk him around the house. You know, even rocking, he didn't like, you know, rocking, he didn't really like, or bouncing on that ball and going, shh, 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 that whole thing. But getting him to sleep was like this hour-long circus. And then napping, it took me way longer to get him to nap than he would even nap. So finally, when he was about, I think he's like 10 months old, my new pediatrician, I did not stay with that woman who made me feel like the worst mom in the world for starving my baby to death, which I didn't even realize I was doing. I switched to a new pediatrician, and he suggested a Ferber type thing. And I was so scared, because I said, you don't know this baby. He would have these long crying jags. I'm like, he's going to cry for 10 hours. It's not going to work, or it's going to take like 2 weeks. I thought for sure. He was stubborn even back then. And it was hard. So the first night he cried for about 45 minutes. You know, if you're not familiar with the Ferber method, it's like the kind of thing where you go in put him down crying, and then you kind of go in every 5 minutes, and then 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes, and then in 15-minute intervals. And I'm a huge proponent of it. It worked for me. And I would suggest it to any mom having an issue with a baby not sleeping. It was difficult, but then the next night he cried for maybe only a little over half an hour. And then the night after that, maybe only like 15 minutes. And then the night after that, barely at all. I mean, it only took really like within 4 nights, he was asleep. And then it was heaven. I thought, why didn't I do this when he was like 5 or 6 months old? Because then we could just put him down, in his crib. Good night, Joe. And the other thing was, it really benefited him because he then slept through the night, and he started napping more. All of a sudden, his naps turned into an hour and a half. And so it was heaven. And it kind of taught him to be a better sleeper, and he's still a good sleeper to this day. So, hey, Debbie, thank you guys so much for joining. So anyway, I just hope, I don't know if you guys can relate. And then on the flip side, so my second baby, he was Jackson, my 12-year-old. He was easy birth, easy baby, easy toddler, no breastfeeding issues. I didn't have quite enough milk. I had to start supplementing, I think at 6 months or so. I probably should have done sooner. He was a smaller baby too, though. But so, the difference. But I remember thinking when I was pregnant with Jackson, I remember thinking, you know what? If my milk doesn't come in, who the fuck cares? I am supplementing. I am not going through that circus again. I mean, I was in such a different place, But it was important to me. Because I wanted, hey, Michi, I wanted him to get those benefits. And also, I didn't even know how many toxins are passed through the breast milk back then. I knew some were, but now, babies are being born with over 200 toxins in their systems. And so, I really wanted him to get that immunity. And now I realize how important it is. But, and it's so important for us to detox, especially as we're pregnant and new moms, because you don't want to be passing as much toxins through that breast milk. And that's a whole other issue. And that's another video I should do, is all the toxins that you can avoid passing along to your kid. I do have on my site, I have a guide that I created of my top 12 toxins to avoid. But they pass through the breast milk. And anyway, so I just wanted to share my story, and I hope you guys can relate. And it's funny because when it was going on, I wasn't even writing. It was long, but blogs didn't even exist. It was 2002. But I thought somehow, some way, I have to share this story. I was like, I'm going to write it or pitch it to a magazine or something, because I was like, other moms, I'm sure, have gone through this or going through this, and they need to know it. But even to this day, I don't feel like breastfeeding difficulties are talked about as much as they should be, And it's too bad, because I feel like more often than not, I'll talk to a mom who had some kind of breastfeeding difficulties. Very few that I've talked to were like, oh yeah, it was so easy. And, some kind of issue with it, whether it's not enough milk, or they didn't latch, or, some kind of issue, or it hurts. Well, I think it hurts everybody. But I just want, moms to know they're not alone, and you're not crazy. That's the other, that's the thing, is I just felt like I was so alone, and so I'm the only one going through this, and it's terrible. Parenting is hard enough as it is. And when we don't get that support, I think, one thing I really want people to take away from when anybody watching this video is, and I hope men do too, is when you're pregnant and right after delivery, a woman needs so much TLC, because you've gone through such a shock. Your body and your hormones and your mind and your mental state is so messed up. It's so difficult. And I don't think people realize that. And I certainly didn't at the time. And I remember even my, some people, my husband, my mother-in-law, my sister, they're like, you have postpartum depression, whatever. And I talked to my doctor, and she said, you know, I don't think you have postpartum depression per se, but she said people are just being too, even she said, she goes, it's just people are not really understanding, like what you're going through is really difficult and you just kind of need a little more TLC. But you can't force people to give you TLC or understanding, you know, you can't. But you need it. And I mean, parenthood, having that first baby, it just throws you for such a loop. I mean, no one can warn you. And I think if you could, that people wouldn't even have, you know, you wouldn't have as many as many kids if you really could convey how difficult it is and how different it is for your life. And you know, for me, it just I felt so alone. I remember I used to joke that, like, okay, the only adult that I've had any kind of adult conversation with all week is the guy who like rang me up at Target. You know, I mean, I just felt, and I got into like a mommy and me at Gymboree, and that helped a lot. I met some moms, but it's like, you know, meeting moms it's like dating. It's like, first of all, it's hard to meet other moms that you're going to click with, or that are going to click with you, and then, you know, that you would want to hang out with, and then maybe you might meet some that you click with and want to hang out with, but then, you know, you still can't get that closeness, you know, and it's hard. Or you might like them, there's nothing wrong, but you just don't have that, like, you know, that where you click and you just feel like you can open up. Now, eventually I did meet moms like that, but I do remember how very alone I felt. And my biggest advice for any new mom is get into some kind of mommy and me. I mean, it's great if you have friends that, like, I know have some people that they have a sister or a friend that, like, oh, we had our babies at the same time, and that is just fantastic. But I think like a Gymboree, well, at the time Gymboree, I don't even know if Gymboree still exists, but that's what saved me. But then I took a long maternity leave, and then I went back to CBS for a short time. I knew that I wanted to leave because it was long hours and, you know, a long commute. Hi, Alina. Oh, Alina, you and I have discussed this. I know your story is similar to mine. But my job wasn't, if my job, I could have like parlayed it into like part-time or even worked from home, but I couldn't. You know, it was television, and it was long hours, and, you know, I was there till 8, 9, 10, 2 in the morning, 11 if I had to be. And it was a really long commute too. We lived in the Valley at the time, and I worked at CV City, which is over in Hollywood, and I really would have never seen him. And I'm like, if I'm going to have a baby, what's the point of like never seeing him? So, and that was a tough transition because I liked my career. But the other thing was, like, you know, I was like in that Dr. Laura era where, you know, she was always preaching that, you know, the baby should be with the mom and everything. But even when I stopped and I had, you know, stopped working at CBS, and I wanted something. That's why I started writing, and I was lucky enough to do some like anchoring and reporting for Santa Monica City News, had like a very small station in Santa Monica. So I did that, and I started writing for magazines and websites. And that's when I started my blog. And, you know, I like staying busy and using my brain and my mind. And that's what kind of led me to doing what I'm doing now, coaching and teaching people how to, you know, live more eco-friendly and detox and improve their health. So it kind of like evolved, but I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but I took a long maternity leave, and then I went back to CBS. So I kind of lost a little touch with the Gymboree moms. And then I left CBS, and I found Mom's Club. And I would recommend anybody as a new mom to join Mom's Club. That really helped. I met some really great moms, and they have like, you know, play groups according to your kid's age. And that was a savior. And I finally met moms that I could connect with and, you know, have something in common with, and like do girls' night out too, and that kind of thing. And also just somewhere where you can go and the babies can play and the moms can hang out. And then it got, you know, much easier as my kids got into grade school. That was the best, because now I have like, you know, I have like my ride or dies, my girls. Alina, you're one of them. You know, Michi, you know, you guys. It's like girls that I see on a regular basis, and, you know, that I really consider truly good friends, and I feel really, really blessed. But I'm telling you, I manifested this shit, because I remember I looked back at like journals I have, or like, you know, oh, I have mine back here. The vision boards is what I'm trying to say. And I remember journaling. I was so, and I'm a people person, you know, I'm not really a homebody. I'm an extrovert, and I like being around people and socializing. And I remember writing. And at the time also we were renting, because we, well, when Joey was a baby, we owned a house in Encino, and then we, hello, somebody's coming in the door. Hi, I'm on Facebook Live. But we, so, and anyway, now I get all sidetracked. So we sold that house, and then we moved out to Thousand Oaks, but we were renting because we kind of knew, you know, the bubble, that whole crazy real estate bubble. We're like, okay, let's rent until prices come down a little bit. So I kind of had to start over. I had started making some friends over out in the valley, and even though it's only, well, 30 minutes with no traffic, it's still long enough where it's not like, oh, let's just go to the park, or let's just meet at the mall, you know? So I kind of had to start over. And, but it helped, you know, I just wrote down what I wanted. I was like, I wanted, you know, true meaningful friendships. And, you know, of course I vision boarded my home and all this stuff, but that didn't. And I remember years later looking back, and I thought, oh my God, friends, you know, I have those close friends. I mean, I'm lucky enough to also have my close, I stay close with some friends that I have had for years. I mean, my best friend in the world, we've been best friends since I was 5. So, you know, and I still stay in touch with, yeah, friends from high school. And in fact, I see friends from high school pretty regularly. So I'm lucky to have those people in my life. But I, at the time, really wanted friends that, you know, were in my situation, in my neighborhood, or in my area, that had babies and kids, my kids' age, that I could really bond with in that way. But I just, yeah, I manifested it. So I'm out the other end, and I feel like, you know what I feel like? I feel like I earned my mom badge, you know, all that postpartum stuff. And it was really, really tough, but I do feel like I came out of it a better person and a stronger person, because you know, you learn from every hardship. And also I always think like everything can be worse. You know what I mean? I mean, the most important thing, and the thing I prayed on so much, was that, of course, my kids are healthy and safe. And, you know, even though I was having such a tough time, I mean, I was so, so grateful that he was healthy and thriving. And also he was fun, you know, as difficult of a baby as he was also super fun. And I'm lucky also that I bonded with him. I didn't have that aspect of postpartum. I don't even know if you would call it postpartum depression as much as I kind of call it postpartum anxiety more, because I was happy. I was, you know, I was a happy new mom, and I bonded with him. But just the difficult parts really weighed me down. And, you know, looking back on it, it's like, well, I've done so much spiritual work and soulful work. I'm in such a different place. I think if that happened to me now, I would handle it so much differently. But you know, another thing at the time that made it really, really difficult, and I remember just that brought so much sadness to me, is if some of you might know this, but when so I was 3 when my sister got married, and you know, she had kids that were kind of more like little brother and sister, cousin to me. In fact, my niece Jenny, I'm going to go see in Chicago next week. But her older brother Eric, you know, he was like my little buddy, and we were very close. And long story short, so when he was 19, he just before he turned 20, he was in a small plane crash, and he passed away. And it was, you know, devastating. This happened back in the 90s, but it was devastating, obviously. And so, you know, to see my sister lose her child, I mean, even back then, way before I was a mom, I knew that was the worst thing that can happen to anybody. And just, you know, one of those things like that you never think is going to happen to you ever, or happen in your family. And it's just was devastating, clearly. Such a great loss, you know. And anyway, my point, how it affected me as a new mom, I remember distinctly, I don't even know if I've ever told anybody this, actually. I remember distinctly thinking, like I had so much love for Joey, as my firstborn. I mean, any of you who are a parent, you know, like it's true what they say, that love that you have for your baby, you've never experienced that kind of love ever. And it is just overwhelming and unreal. And I certainly experienced that. And I couldn't help but sometimes have these thoughts like, oh my God, my sister, Pat, she had these feelings for Eric, and now he's taken from her. And it just, I mean, and he had passed away many years before Joey was born, but I mean, it had been, several years, but that just hit me so hard. And I would literally sit there and just cry for my sister, for that loss. It's like, and thinking, how do you even bring someone in the world and have this much love for this being, and to lose? It's just like I could not even handle that kind of grief. Oh, thank you. It was just like overwhelming to me. So I kind of had that, and I think I was having that kind of grief in that because of the postpartum. I mean, your hormones are so whacked out after you have a baby, and I know a lot of women have it during pregnancy. I was lucky enough to not have it during pregnancy, but after, anyway, so that was another thing that I just had so much intense sadness over. But yet, and then the next second, I'd have like all this joy over my sweet little newborn, so you kind of you go through all these emotions, and the emotions are so extreme too, Anyway, so thank you for listening to my story. I hope that it resonated with some of you, and I hope, we can just get this conversation started, that even if you don't go through something really horrific, or not that it was horrific, but difficult, maybe even if breastfeeding is a breeze, or you don't have any postpartum, it's still, no matter what, as easy as it is, it's still difficult because your world is turned upside down, and caring for this little baby is like the hardest thing in the world, So if we can just kind of keep the conversation going and support each other, that's my desire. All right. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys are doing well. And I would love, to hear from you. Post in the comments any questions you might have, but feel free to, share your story. I'd love to hear it. And anything that you can relate to. And if you, maybe I'll post this on my page, and, if you can share this video, because I think discussing this and having this discussion, out there, I think could help a lot of moms, especially a lot of new moms. I mean, I'm so far removed from it. My youngest is 12, but there are new moms coming all over the place. And I know that there are a lot of young moms in this group. And I have, a lot of clients that are pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant, or, have young kids, or have kids, and, are going to maybe have more kids. Because the other thing is, sometimes I feel lucky. The other thing is that my difficult one was the first. I have, a lot of compassion for those because I talked to a lot of moms that their second was the hard baby, and everything was difficult, where the first one was a breeze. I feel lucky that I'd rather get like the difficult part over first, because if the first one is difficult or easy and the second one's difficult, then it's kind of like, oh my gosh, at least I didn't know, I had no point of reference. I didn't know better. It was like, so that I felt lucky about. But it's true. And I've even talked to moms that, have, 4 and 5 kids, and they didn't have anything until maybe their 4th kid. That's when it was hard. So you just kind of never know when these things are going to be difficult. Anyway, so I would be great if you could share this video and post in the comments your experience or your reaction, and I'd love to know how you feel. I'd love your feedback. All right, I hope you have a great rest of the night, and thank you so much for watching.